I have said it many times before anything else, I'm an MMA fan. And while it's not part of our Real Sport tournament format, today I get to be a fan. I get to make a fight that I have always wanted to see. This isn't going to happen here often. This is not a huge new trend at Bellator, but it is awesome to be able to make this fight between these two icons. Greatest knockout I've ever seen. Literally, probably one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced in mixed martial arts involved this guy. It was when he was at Pride. It was a fight. It was a Ricardo Arona fight. Vanderlei was up for grabs in a huge fight for the winner. Arona was riding like an 8 or 9 fight win streak. He was an absolute monster. Arona got him stuck in a triangle, arm in, and instead of executing some spectacular technical escape from jiu-jitsu, he picked him up. Arona's head was, I think, 20 feet off the ground, or at least that's what it looked like to a kid like me who was watching at the time. And he slammed him down, and I swear Arona was unconscious before he hit the ring mat. It was unbelievable. It was the beginning. It looked like one of those cartoons that we used to watch as kids where like the rabbit would grab people and throw them down on the ground, and it was one of those amazing epic moments. But what it did for me is it established him, in my mind, as kind of a superhero, a guy that transcended the game. Then he came over here, there was the Eastman walkover, and then they put him up against Chuck, and Chuck was the poster boy on Entourage and doing all this stuff. I think it was 142 or 52 into the first round. That short right hook came, boom, lights out. And the image, that superhero mentality built. And then there's Tito, who held the championship, held the title for, I think, longer than anybody except maybe 2 or 3 other guys. There were the huge fights. There were the Ken fights and the Vanderlei fights. It was Chuck and there was Randy. These guys are icons in our sport. They're legends in the game. So when I started to meet him, and I've known him for, gosh, going on a decade, and I asked myself, could we bring it back? Could these guys come back and could they recreate, possibly just for a single night, that epic nature, that majesty, that something that was bigger and better and more powerful than what we typically get in mixed martial arts? I, for one, believe that they can, and I believe that they will. And with that, I'll make it short. I will turn it over for a brief comment to the People's Champion, Tito Ortiz.
I'm really excited to be a part of Bellator and just a part of this event in general. I got an offer I couldn't refuse for my future, of not only my kids, my family, but my pretty much legacy of what I've done in mixed martial arts. I've tried to do everything underneath the sun in this sport to get it where it is today, and everything I have is because of this sport. I fought with integrity and with heart and determination like no other fighter has ever done. I've been through every surgery that any athlete has ever been through, and I've prevailed through it. And once again, I'm continuing to prevail through it. I'm healthy. My mind is in a good place. I have a boss that I no longer have to fight with, that has my back. I have a company that has my back. I no longer have a relationship that drags me down. I have a great family that has my back. I'm in a good place mentally, physically, and emotionally, like no other. And me being in the position I am right now, I had that little hunger of going, I want to be great again. And the way to be great again is not to fight chumps. It's to fight some of the best guys in the world. Rampage has been one of the best guys in the world, time and time again. I've lost to the guys he's beat, and I beat the guys that he's lost to. So it's just one of those things that this fight will make one of the biggest fights in 2013, and I believe in the whole future. And to make this fight happen, Bellator was the one to make this fight happen. As I said, they gave me an offer that I couldn't refuse. My future is solidified, and I'm happy about it. A company that I used to work for, I had to beg for tickets. I had to beg to be a part of it. And a whole year went by, and I waited, and I no longer can wait anymore. I got to think of the future of my children, and I'm doing this. I mean, I just turned 38 years old, and I feel good. I feel great. I know I've gone through things that many athletes don't come back after. And just because of my positive mindset and the way my body reacts, and thank God the blood that's in me from my parents, that I'm strong, I'm healthy, and I want to fight. Just to have a positive environment around you makes your mind in a different place and in a better place to compete. And to compete with a strong mind, people saw what I did to Ryan Bader. My relationship was on hold for 8 weeks. Never said a word. All I did was train with my kids, train with my kids, train with my kids. That was it. People saw the outcome of the Bader fight. When my mind is in that set, my back's pushed against the wall, and I'm not supposed to do anything special. I do things very, very special. I do things in a great way. And here with Bellator and against Rampage, November 2nd, I'm going to do something even greater. Everybody will see.
Rampage.
No. Well, y'all know I'm happy to be here. Like I said in my last press conference with Bellator, I said once the other fighters hear about how things work over here and the sweet deal I got, that they will be coming over. And I didn't think Tito would be the first one, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, I was really looking forward to fighting Roy Jones. I was, you know. And but Tito signed with them, and you know, Bellator's already done so many things for me. They made my dream come true of being a pro wrestler and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? I'll fight Tito. I didn't even give him, you know what I'm saying, any headache or nothing. I said, okay. Tito came over, he signed with Bellator. Hell, I'll fight him for my first fight. And I wanted my first fight with Bellator to be an MMA fight anyway, because I've been working on a lot of old skills that I forgot about once I got addicted to knocking people out. That's all I was trying to do. And so now I'm just working on everything, and it's good for me to get back into MMA and show the fans that I'm real serious about this comeback. You know, I've been fighting some tough guys, and it's hard to fight the top of the line with the injuries that I've had. So Tito know what I'm talking about. A lot of fighters don't know. A lot of fans don't know what fighters go through. They think all they see is us getting in the cage. They don't know about the training every day, and you have to train with the injuries and stuff like that. And they think, oh, you making excuses. You making excuses. Like, no, I'm just keeping it real. You know, sometimes you show up to the fight and you're not 100%, but only certain fighters do that. Some fighters, they bitch out. But you know what I'm saying, fighters like me and Tito, we don't. And this is the thing that you guys don't know. Like, I've been reading a lot of stuff, and me and Tito have been taking a lot of hit from some of the MMA fans, and it's not right for a lot of never will be's and never going to be's to call Tito and I has-beens. You know what I'm saying? You guys should really smack yourselves for saying stuff like that. Like, people age, people get older, people have injuries, but one thing that they don't know about me and Tito is that we have something that they would never have. We have hearts. And I've trained with Tito for years, and I can tell secretly it's been a little competition between me and Tito. I remember when I first started out training with him and Rico Rodriguez. They used to kick my ass all the time and stuff like that, and they used to enjoy it. And then I started getting a little bit better, and me and Tito started going at it a little bit harder and stuff like that. And it's always been like a little, little times, when me and Tito want to go at it in training. We went at it before a couple times in training. It's been a couple times at Big Bird that me and Tito had some battles and that people would never see, and now it's going to come out in the cage in front of everybody. And so, yeah, it's going to be tough fighting a good friend like Tito, but at the end of the day, I trust that Tito wants to put on a good show for the fans, because that's what he is. He's a showman, and I'm a showman. I've been in some of the best shows. I've been in Pride, fighting in front of 80,000 people, and I've been in the UFC and the big shows, and I've done movies, and now I'm doing pro wrestling. I pretend that I'm a comedian. If you guys understand me, I just like to entertain people. Sometimes I do it a little bit too much, but this is what I like to do. Ever since I was a kid, I like to entertain people, and MMA has been getting really boring lately. I know you guys know this. MMA has been really boring for a while, and I'm not with that. You know what I'm saying? I want to liven this sport up, and so I'm honored to fight a guy like Tito, because no matter what, when he steps inside that cage, he's an animal. He brings it, no matter if his body 100% or not. But now that Tito and I both understand about the mental game, what you guys would never understand, the other place where we was at, you know what I'm saying, you gotta get your mind right, and the mind frame just wasn't right. It's hard to explain. It's just the energy is just bad over there. Over here, the energy is good. I'm already like starting my camp right now, and I'm feeling so positive about this fight and about everything else. So if you guys don't believe me that I'm back, watch November 2nd, and I'm not gonna do all this talking about all this other stuff. I'm just gonna show y'all that night. Then you guys can follow me for the rest of my career and say, damn, Rampage wasn't lying. He's back.
Big, in a word, big. You know, there's a large-scale commitment that Viacom has behind Bellator. They have been an amazing partner, and the opportunity to do this fight, the opportunity to take our first step into pay-per-view will be met with a lot of support. It'll be met with cross-platform support. I think you'll see, I know you'll see that support across expected and some of the unexpected kind of tributaries underneath that larger Viacom umbrella. So you'll see the Spike stuff obviously all the time. You'll see all kinds of programming that'll support this fight, build up to it, tell the story behind Tito and behind Rampage and behind what's going on here in Orange County as they prep. But you'll see cross-platform, MTV, MTV2, VH1, BET, comedy, etc. You'll see a lot of different support vehicles, and you'll see that full machine as we've seen it with Rampage, and it's worked so effectively in terms of what we've been able to do with Dixie and TNA and what we've been able to do on Spike. You'll see that vehicle running full throttle in terms of the promotion behind this fight. So you'll see an awful lot. And you know, people forget underneath that larger umbrella how many different vehicles there are that reach how many different demographics underneath that larger Viacom umbrella. It's enormous.
Will we see it go all the way up to CBS though? Commercials on CBS?
Well, the CBS relationship is one that's a little bit more distanced than it was in the past, although there are some small tentacles. I mean, the real, that family that we're part of is really that MTV, MTV2, VH1, comedy, BET, you know, CMT, Spike, Paramount, etc. That's where we live. And I think that's where you'll see the vast majority of the support for this fight. And then, of course, there'll be huge PR campaigns behind it. These guys will be everywhere talking about it. And then over the coming months, we'll be announcing, probably the coming 6 weeks, we'll be announcing the other fights will be on this show, which will be epic, the best we've ever done. So it'll be huge support.
Punisher Training Center. I'll be there for the first 6 weeks, and then Big Red last 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And Rampage?
Yeah, I'll be doing my pre-camp at my gym, Rampage Fitness Academy in Mission Viejo, but then I'm going down to Rosarito, Mexico to finish up my camp.
Where?
Rosarito, Mexico.
Why?
Because I like Mexico.
Is there someone down there you're going to train with?
I bring whoever I want to come train anywhere with me. I go all over the world and train. But this time I chose Rosarito, Mexico. It's right on the beach. The people are really nice. They got quads. You can ride quads on the beach. You can ride quads on the street. There's senoritas walking around. They got burritos everywhere and taco stands. And I'm trying to learn my Spanish. I like Mexico. Got a nice little condo on the beach right there. I can look out the window butt naked and look at the ocean and nobody can see me. I'm like, hey, how y'all doing? I do a penis smack on my balcony.
Guys talk to each other prior to when it was announced the fight, like, hey, you know, like, and kind of talk like, hey, you know, we're gonna fight each other and anything like that.
Well, I was in Japan and Tito was texting me, but I didn't know what he was talking about. But unfortunately, I was in Japan visiting my kids and drunk most of the time. So I was like, it was different times. I'm like, what? I was drinking in the club with a bunch of girls all around me. Like, what is this guy talking about? What is he? I called him when I get back to America, but I didn't know what he was talking about. Because honestly, I thought I was fighting Roy Jones. You know what I'm saying? I'm just as shocked as anybody else when I found out, like, oh, Tito signed with Bellator. And my manager told me, I'm like, are you kidding me? He said, no, Tito. And I knew fighters was going to come over when they found out how cool Bellator is and how they know how to treat fighters. I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't know it was going to be this soon. So I was like,
I mean, that's one of the good things too. Bellator isn't about the brand. They're about making stars and making people as they should be. We go in there, we kill ourselves, practically. And you want to be a superstar, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the work, and you got to put on good fights. Bellator wants to support those guys to do that. It's not about the brand of Bellator. It's going to always be there. It's about fighters, about making superstars, and Bjorn understands that. And for once, a business understands that. And to have him behind your back by doing that, that's what I always dreamed. That's what I always tried to do. When I first started MMA, that's what I wanted to do, was to spread the word of mixed martial arts. This isn't called UFC, it's called mixed martial arts. There's these different companies that are called, you know, UFC, Bellator, but this is about mixed martial arts. This is truly what it's about. Us fighters who put our lives on the line, we're the ones that are putting people in those seats and the pay-per-view buys. We're the ones putting our life on the line to make that happen. So I think we're the ones that should be getting the most recognition out of anything. And everybody else will just get the rest as it comes in.
Now, Bjorn, is this deal similar to Rampage's, where it's a big deal spread across, where he has options to do pro wrestling and other things like that?
Yeah, there will be and are other pieces of Tito's deal. that make it more expansive. I mean, like, Tito just said it in kind of in a nutshell, is that we've never been about building this brand. We're about using the brand to help propel the brands of fighters, because the fighters are going to bring this brand along. The brand's not going to bring the fighters along. That's the way it works in every other major sport: football, basketball, baseball. It's superstars that bring those leagues along. The leagues don't bring the superstars along. So he hit it. So Tito and I, I've known Tito for a long time, and we did some stuff in the entertainment realm together about a decade ago. It was unrelated to mixed martial arts, but there are other pieces to his puzzle as well that you're going to see start to unfold as well.
Can you say any of those pieces right now?
Some theatrical things that come off of kind of the heels of what he and I did together. I don't know if it was 10 years ago, but 7, 8 years ago.
Oh, 8 years ago?
Yeah, 8 years ago. Just, mechanisms. I mean, if you see action stars today, and you see the guys that are making that transition, you see Randy, who's been working, with us vis-a-vis Fight Master. That's a very natural transition. It's a very seamless transition in terms of consumer understanding, and that's part of a place that I can see both of these guys making that transition.
And is there a price point yet for the PPV?
Price points will vary depending on the distributor. We'll have $35 price point. There'll be some 40s. Some of the distributors may push it up to 45. It'll be distributor specific in terms of where they're located around the country.
Why is that?
Pardon me?
Why is that? Why is it not one?
Because they know. It's very much like our relationships we have with fighters. They're the experts in that field. They understand what their different consumer base is going to be able to withstand and what they're going to want to pay for a certain fighter for a certain event. So we leave it more in the hands of the distributors to make that determination, as opposed to mandating to them or directing them as to exactly what it will be at one singular price point. There are different markets which are hotbeds of mixed martial arts, which have shown a propensity to buy huge numbers. There are others that don't quite buy as much, that we want to fertilize and get to be better mixed martial arts targeted markets. So we've left that in the hands of the distributors to make some of those determinations.
And you said 35 to 55 are the price points?
35, I think there's a very high likelihood that we will not exceed the $50 price point. Again, it's going to be in the hands of the distributors, but a lot of it has been around the $35 to $45 price point in terms of what we've been talking about. This is literally, this is our first foray into this marketplace. So I'm not one who, the same question comes up oftentimes about ratings. What's a rating success? Is 700,000 that we did last week a success? Is it not a success? Is a million average a success from last season? I don't typically kind of put the flag down on those and say, hey, we're going to hit this or we're going to do that. I look at it as an MMA fan. I look at the guy sitting right here to my left and the guy to my right. I recognize who they are. I recognize what their cue scars are and their brand awareness and how people respond to them. I know what's coming up over the next 6 weeks in terms of the other fights that are going to fill out this card, which are epic. I think it'll do well. I always look at it from a simplistic scratch and sniff perspective. I sit around with my goofy buddies that I've been watching fights with for the last 19 years, and I say, would you buy it? Is this something you'd pay for? Would you watch it for free? And it's a simple scratch and sniff market analysis, but it works pretty well.
Fans know what they want to see. When I come out and fight, sometimes I come out and fight injured, sometimes I don't, but I put my life on the line when I come out and fight. My job is to entertain. From Bell 1, actually from when my music starts until I walk out of that cage, it's a show. I'm going to fight with heart, I'm going to fight with determination, I fight like no other. And I go out there and I swing for the fences. My last fight left a bad taste in my mouth, and I thought I won the fight. And when you drop someone twice, and you take them down 4 times, and you smash their face, and they go run out of the cage crying, I don't understand how I lose a fight. But you're only as good as your last fight. And Rampage, he brings in, he fought the #2 guy in the world. And he put on a great show. People are always looking like he was almost going to knock him out. We're still here to fight. We're going to put on a show. I got heart. I want to fight. When I want to fight and I don't have someone behind me just talking smack, it's great to have a boss that's going to have your back, who's going to support you in a great way, have a company that has your back and supports you in a great way. When I have that feeling of graciousness of being here, it makes me want to do it. When I'm sitting there and I have someone barking at me and yelling at me and talking shit the whole time, I don't want to be around that. I don't want to be around this negativity that just sucks the life out of somebody. I like when I can propel it to a better and a greater establishment. And I think here at Bellator and with Viacom, this sport's just going to get bigger. Bellator is on the map, and going up is the only way it's going to go.
How much did seeing some of the guys coming in, like Randy and Frank, with Fight Master and with Spike, how much did that influence your decision?
There were just so many facets amongst this whole deal, and I think that really kept my attention going throughout, I mean, the whole contract to be done. I mean, that had a little bit to do with it. I mean, of course, anybody ever seen me on The Ultimate Fighter, I love to coach. I mean, I went to college to be a high school teacher and a wrestling coach. That was my idea, my goal, I thought, before fighting came about. So that is an idea, and that is something that did intrigue me a lot. I know I could do a lot better than any of those guys. You know, The Ultimate Fighter, go ahead and tell us, but I mean, I don't like to be cocky until it's already done. But it had a little bit to do with it, of course. But I think the longevity of what my business, the Tito Ortiz brand, is given from Viacom and from Bellator that they're going to offer me and what they're going to give me. You know, business is my forte. I understand it. I know what it takes to get there, and that's hard work and dedication. Anybody ever seen me on Apprentice? You know, my number one question I asked Donald Trump was, how do you become who you are? He goes, Tito, I wake up every day and I work as hard as I possibly do, and I possibly can. Well, I've been doing the same damn thing for the last 15 years. That's why I am where I am today, and I get the recognition of what I've done. And you know, when the Fight Master does come about, and then I have an interest in it. Of course I do.
Along that same line, what about the past relationship with Spike and maybe some people who are still around the company? You know, again, was that also something that weighed in your decision to sign?
Yeah, of course. You know, I mean, the first couple times I worked with Spike, all the guys at Spike were awesome. I mean, we had some of the best ratings in Ultimate Fighter history. When me and Shamrock did it, it was huge. I mean, when me and Chuck did it, was huge. They just always treat us right over at Spike and always did the right things. And I know that Bjorn's behind this and making this happen even more with Bellator. I mean, up is the only way to go. I mean, you've seen a little small thing you did on TNA wrestling. I mean, I've always been a big fan of wrestling. People got to understand, professional wrestling is what got me into fighting. I mean, what got me into collegiate wrestling in high school. When I walked in the wrestling room in high school, I was like, all right, where's the ring at? Not understanding that there was two totally different sports. I mean, Hulk Hogan was a guy I look up to. And all of a sudden, I'll be side to side to Hulk Hogan. Is this supposed to happen in my life? I mean, is this everything in life happens for a reason? I believe so, and I'm going to run with it like no other. I mean, I have an opportunity like I've never had in my life, and never expect that would happen. And thanks to Bellator and Viacom, this is happening for me. And sky's the limits. And I'm going to shoot for the moon, and maybe I'll land on a star instead.
All right, last one for you. There's been a couple. Dana alluded to it. Stephen Bonner alluded to it. Money issues that you may or may not be having, and that's why you're coming back. How much of this has to do with money? How much of it has to do with competition?
How do you feed your children or your family?
Well, sure, got to get paid.
Okay. Well, that's really not a problem. My kids are gonna get paid either way. I was smart enough to save my money. I mean, I invest, and the biggest thing you can invest, that's something that people they don't make much of. That's called land, and I own a lot of it. And I'm smart with my money. And right now, it's about making history. It's about making another brand. It's about making a company, you know, that I put my hard work of 15 years into, that pretty much just shut me out and turned me down. Now I'm with another one that I'm going to do exactly the same thing with a positive environment around me, or some people who care about me and want to do something great in the sport. And I think the fans and the fighters in general need another opportunity instead of just answering to one man, to be able to have the opportunity to look somewhere else. And let me tell you, Bellator has given that opportunity to fighters that I've always said from the very beginning about pay, about how they should be treated and so forth. And you know, Bjorn understands that, and he respects us fighters. And you know, you see Rampage coming over here, you see Couture coming over here, myself, and I think this is the beginning of many that will come, because people want to be treated right as fighters. We should be respected as fighters, and that's what it comes down to. We're the modern day gladiators, man. You win the crowd, you win your freedom, and I did that a long time ago.
Okay, all right, thanks, Tito. Thanks, you guys.
And we'll go next to Karen Bryant at MMA Heat.
Thank you for taking the call. I've got a couple of questions. First one is for you, Quinton. A lot of people kind of thought we were getting punked with the talk of Roy Jones, and I know you and I have talked over the years a lot about your desire to box. So how close to reality was that? And, you know, is that something that you, and specifically Roy, think you can come back around to after the Tito fight?
Honestly, I think Tito fucked up that fight. The whole time I was getting ready to prepare for Jones. I was going to get down to 200 pounds. I was already setting up a boxing camp and everything. Then when Tito signed to Bellator, I was like, damn, there go my Roy Jones fight. But I think I think that the Jones fight will come around eventually after Tito and I fight. You know, if everything's go according to plan and everything, I'm sure that's a fight that'll happen because Jones is very interested in fighting me.
Well, that's good, but there's nobody else that you would consider if Roy doesn't work out? Because certainly, there was also talk about Roy and Anderson, and so was Roy a specific target for other reasons as well?
Well, it just came down to that. Like when I was boisterous about leaving the UFC and I wanted to box before I even signed with Bellator, I was being real. I wanted to box because I heard Kimbo Slice was out there doing some boxing and he was doing good. I was like, hell, I'll box him. I just wanted to try boxing because if you think about it, I've done everything else. I've done wrestling, I've done jiu-jitsu tournaments in the beginning of my career, and I've done some K1, and I've done MMA apparently, but boxing was the only thing that I haven't done. So I was like, man, I want to try it before I retire. Because honestly, before Bellator come around, I was thinking about retiring because I didn't want to fight for the other company I was with no more. So I was like, hell, boxing's the only thing that I could do, and because there was no other company out there that I really was thinking about until I met Bjorn, and so it just played out the way it did. When Tito came over, he fucked all that up.
Tito, do you have a response for that? Being the guy who put the wrench in the works?
I didn't mean to, but I want to fight. I want to fight the best. I come here and I fight somebody who no one knows, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, Tito's getting a gimme fight." I don't want no gimme fights. My whole career, I've always fought the top 5 in the world. I've always been tried to be shut down, and sometimes I come and I shut those people up, or I walk away with a close loss. But I've always came out and put on a show. And when I came here, I didn't want an easy fight. And it's about putting the friendship aside, as I say, and give the fans what they want to do. Our job is to fight. My job is to fight. Rampage's job is to fight. I love it. And when I have a positive environment around me, I love it even more. And I think, business is business. And on November 2nd, it's going to be business. I'm putting my poker face on, and Rampage better shuffle the right cards.
Nice. And I just have one more question for Tito. There's something kind of fun about the idea of you and Rampage fighting, but there's also, the possibility that you guys could have done it as a pro wrestling element. Like, was there ever a consideration of you guys doing it in that way and sort of recreating hyper versions of yourselves and doing it as a pro wrestling match instead?
What?
How do you do that without pulling a punch? I don't understand that one. I hit with bad intentions. I know Rampage does the same thing too, so I don't think I could be a wrestling match.
And stay tuned into TNA Impact. You never know what you may get.
I wouldn't mind being a tag team with Tito on down the line once we learn.
Wouldn't be the first time, that's for sure.
Yeah, we did it back in the day. I wouldn't mind after the fight.
Something totally different.
Listen, we wasn't talking about tag team and you're married.
Hey now.
When did you get here? Oh, your husband here you got on me. I got to watch my mouth in front of him. I didn't even see you there.
Your next question is from Alec Goff at onlineworldofwrestling.com.
Thank you very much for taking my call. My first question is both for Quinton and Tito. Both of you guys have been with Impact Wrestling. Tito in the past and Quinton over the past few months. My question is, how's the locker room accepted you guys? And then how many of the guys have asked you for advice, considering you guys have been part of the biggest TV events and the biggest pay-per-views?
Well, the guys are really cool with me in the locker room. No one's asked me for any advice. I've been asking all them for advice. They've been showing me little tricks and stuff like that since I haven't been able to train pro wrestling much yet. So I've been learning from those guys, but no one asked me anything about MMA.
Same with me. I mean, all the guys are very respectful towards me, and I respect each and one of those guys. People say professional wrestling's fake. wait till you take a couple bumps and you get slammed by a chair a few times. I mean, those chairs are, you know, metal. And those guys, you come out. I mean, Jeff Hardy, a guy who I've been watching forever, and he's a part of TNA, and that was one of the guys that kept me into UFC. I remember being at WrestleMania, and then the Dudley brothers and the Hardy Boys, they had their ladder match, and I was like, all right, I think I'll continue fighting because you guys are crazy. But hey, like I said, it's a thing I've loved since the very beginning. I can remember when I was 6 years old watching, you know, Macho Man Randy Savage and Tito Santana and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. I mean, as a kid watching that stuff, now all of a sudden I'm associated with it and I'm a part of it. You know, Jeff Jarrett and Hulk Hogan, I mean, TNA Wrestling, you know, Dixie Carter's a wonderful woman there who's really embraced us as fighters to come in and make that crossover. And I would love to make that crossover. It's just going to take some time to work and do the diligency of being a professional wrestler. And the only way to do that is to practice. If you want to be the best you possibly can in your life, you got to practice at what you love to do.
You know what? I got to say this, man. I hate when people talk about pro wrestling and they call it fake and stuff like that. I wonder what they think about action movies, because at least pro wrestlers, they do their own stunts.
Exactly.
Like most actors, they can't even do their own stunts. I don't understand why. I don't understand what this.
I mean, that's the respect value that I have for the professional wrestlers, and you know, they came in open arms to me, and they were like stoked, like, wow, we're happy to be that you're a part of this, and I'm like, you guys are happy. I'm happy to be a part of it. Now, even better than that, Rampage is there. I mean, from the beginning, you gotta understand, me and Rampage, we've known each other for 15 years, and when he was over in Pride, and it was just, you gotta sell yourself the right way so people either love you or hate you, and we both understood that. Thank God gave us the gifts we have to fight the way we do, and we're the champions that we were and continue will be. It's going to be exciting. And November 2nd, like I say, we're going to put on a show.
And my next question is for Bjorn. Bjorn, with this fight has definitely caused a lot of talk. This is a big fight that a lot of people are talking about. Are you kind of disappointed, I guess would be the word, that people aren't talking about the dominant performances of Michael Chandler and Ben Askren at the same show?
No, you know, kind of an overabundance of riches. I'm not going to complain about it. Look, there's been a huge amount of talk about this, but you know, if you've been an MMA fan for the last decade plus, these two guys are, if there was a Mount Rushmore of mixed martial arts, these would be two of the heads that were carved in stone. So, you know, look, I've said it many times, I think Michael Chandler's the best lightweight in the world. I think you put him in against any lightweight on earth, he comes out with a W.
They're going to need a lot of stone for Tito's head.
I think, you know, look, I think Askren put on another Askren-esque performance, but you know, Chandler's a phenom. Chandler's an absolute monster. And look, the good news about this is we're going to have these two guys headlining a pay-per-view on November 2nd right here in Southern California, and if everything works out the way I'm hoping, you're going to get to see Chandler on that same pay-per-view. And so you're going to give him an amazing platform, an amazing basis. I mean, we as endemic market MMA fans, we know about Michael Chandler. And now the buzz is he top 3? Is he top 2? Where does he fit into the equation? I know where he fits into the equation. But now you put him on a card with Rampage, you put him on a card with Tito, suddenly you get people looking at it in a completely different light. So it's exciting. It's very exciting. Yeah, these guys stole some of the limelight, but it was limelight nonetheless. And it's all part of a bigger machine and a bigger puzzle. And I think it'll work itself out really nicely November 2nd.
When you said Askren's performance, was that in a positive manner, or were you not happy with Askren's performance?
No, you know, look, Ben's a puzzle. Ben's a tough puzzle, and you gotta, you know, I mean, I've never tried to make excuses for what Ben does. I mean, the essence of mixed martial arts is if you don't like what somebody is doing to you, then you should learn how to stop it. And, you know, look, Ben does that one thing that he does better than anyone in the world. And we have yet to see him do anything other than that, but because no one's pushed him to do it. It's just the nature of the beast. So, you know, look, it is, it's not for everybody, but it is dominant. I mean, what was punched at 264-3 in that fight? I mean, he just, you know, he does what he does extremely well. It is not for everybody, but he does what he does extremely well, and he is laying out, he's dominating some spectacular, the Limas of the world, you know, are great fighters. You know, I still think Koreshkov is an amazing fighter. So.
Thank you for taking the time to take my call.
Why?
I don't know, man. That's what reporters do sometimes.
We'll go next to Ron Kruk at Inside MMA.
Hey guys, thanks for the time. A couple quick questions for Bjorn. Bjorn, why did you decide now was the best time for Bellator to do their first pay-per-view event?
That was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was busy talking.
I'm sorry, my
Time
bad.
to do this.
Why was now the time to do? Best time to do? It was just, look, there were a lot of different stars that needed to align. We needed to establish a brand on Spike, obviously, as a preeminent distribution platform for MMA content. We needed to do solid numbers in the first season. There was a lot of thought process and kind of planning that went in with Kevin Kay and I, who had Spike, sitting down and strategizing on the right time and the right place. How do you straddle those two kind of parts of that same fence? How do you get huge names on a pay-per-view, and then how do you use that as a catalyst to develop some of the guys that we believe are the best in the world and could beat anybody on earth? How do you create all of that mechanism? How do you use the Spike show that we're doing this fall as a precursor, as a barker for months leading up to the first pay-per-view? What dates are available? When's Mayweather fighting? When's the other folks doing a pay-per-view, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a timing element, just sitting down, talking to really smart people and figuring out when that right time was. And all of those stars came together the right way for November 2nd. It's our backyard. I mean, look, it even feels strange to keep saying it, but it's Rampage versus Tito as the main event on our first pay-per-view. So it's just, everything fit together the right way. It wasn't an impulse decision. It was a decision that, I sat down with the people that I work with, my partners at Spike and at Viacom, and a lot of thought went into it, and it was the right time to do it.
You've got two pioneers, as you said, fighting in the main event, and you've talked Tito coming out of retirement. With your reality show and the things you have going on, I mean, could we see maybe other names coming out of retirement, especially like Couture or Shamrock?
I would love to fight Couture. I ain't gonna lie. I'd fight him.
Yeah, there you go.
Any day.
Yeah, you know what? You might. I never try to get too far ahead of it in terms of kind of thinking about what's going to come next. And unlike other folks, I never kind of tease what could be. I'm more a fan of kind of solidifying what is. I'm still shocked by the fact that we were able to, with all the conversations that Tito and I had and the number of meetings we had around this same wood table and the myriad of conversations I had with his manager, with Dave Thomas, and the months it took to put this whole scenario together. I'm shocked it didn't break. But there's a lot else in the works. I mean, not sleeping 4 hours a night and working 7 days a week, 365. You can get a lot accomplished, even when you're simple like me. So, we've got a lot in the works. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't know that it is guys who have opted for retirement. There's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle that are going to keep getting unveiled. New guys we're going to develop: Michael Chandler's of the world, the Pat Currans of the world, Alexander Slemenko's, Tito, Rampage, and others that you'll see. It's all starting to move in a great direction.
Fighters want to be treated right. They come to Bellator.
Can I fight titties on pay-per-view one day? Daryl Showdown. I'll fight him just on Spike.
There you go.
I'm happy to fight
That's
him.
Our next Spike show.
Rampage versus
And we'll
titties.
go next to Eddie Goldman at No Holds Barred.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. First of all, congratulations on all these signings. First question is both for Rampage and Tito. You both talked about things like a positive environment at Bellator and that there was bad energy at the previous company you worked for. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because you guys both seem very, very relaxed during this press conference, and even though you're fighting, there's not a lot of the hype and the stuff that we've seen in other types of events.
Well, I think, this is Tito, I think it really comes down to our careers speak for themselves of hype in a fight. People know where we're going to bring it to when it's fight time in the cage. And the positive reinforcement. If we lose, the boss ain't going to sit there and talk smack on us, talk shit on us the whole time, saying how horrible we were and should be retired and this and that. It's just another fight. There's two guys who go in there and they fight, and one guy loses, one guy wins. We both put on a show. Every one of my fights I ever fought, I lost one, I put on a show. It was, I could take away a point, could give a point, I would have won. It would have been a different story. But it's just one of those things, you got to embrace the fighters. And I think that's what this truly is about, is embracing the fighters. And Bjorn and Bellator will continue to do that and do that. And I think that's why you put this pay-per-view together.
And Rampage, you want to comment on that a little bit, please?
Well, I agree exactly with what Tito said. It's no secret that we both felt like we've been treated wrongly in the past, and he's exactly right. Like, it's a lot of pressure to put on the fight, especially in America, to win. If you guys could think about it, I come from fighting over in Japan, where it's all about putting on a great show. And you guys maybe forget, like, one of the biggest stars in Japan was Sakuraba, and he was one of the best showmen of all times. You know, he was a pro wrestler, and he came over to MMA, and he put on a great job, and he won a lot of fights, and he lost a few fights, but it was still a show, and Japanese fans, they embraced that. Like, my first fight with Sakuraba, leaving the arena, I remember, I never forget this. Some girl gave me an ear job. Even though I lost the fight, she was sucking on my ear. I couldn't believe that. I never experienced. I was feeling really down. Like, man, I lost the fight. But the fans like, no, you fought with samurai spirit. You didn't give up. You know, and I was trying to beat them. I was slamming, and they loved that. And that's something that me and Tito have. When we go and fight, go back and watch some of our fights. We don't fight not to lose. We fight to win. We fight with our hearts and put on the show. And I think that we should be respected for that. But like my last couple fights, I fought injured, and all I got was ridicule for my head's not in it no more and stuff like that. Like, hell, I could have backed out the fight and ruined the whole card, but no, I didn't. I stayed in like a soldier, and I fought. You know, I think I should have been like, all he had to do was say thank you for not pulling out and I would have been happy with that, even with the loss. And we have nightmares about our losses and stuff like that. We have to deal with that. We don't need the fans and the promoters to give us crap for losing when it's a 50-50 chance that we was going to lose in the first place.
And a question for Bjorn. Bellator has even been using in its logo championship tournaments, the toughest tournament in sports, and things like that. Is having this fight headline a pay-per-view, is that a repositioning of Bellator, or is it sort of an enhancement of where Bellator is at? Maybe you can comment on that, because people have been discussing that.
Yep. Hey, Eddie. No, man, I think it's an enhancement. I think it's an enhancement for sure. I mean, look, the bottom line is that the cornerstone of what makes us different, our point of difference is that we're real sports competition. And when it boils down to world title fights, when it boils down to crowning our champion at 170 or 55 or 45 or 35 or whatever the weight class, guys are going to earn the right to fight for that championship, and they're going to have to beat the champion. It is the toughest tournament in sports. It's real sports competition. We're not sitting around waiting for some wrestler to lose 2 fights straight and then embark his way into a 205 world title fight. That's just not the essence of what we do. But it never meant, and you and I have talked about it, I think last time I was in New York when we did the Mo announcement for Impact, is it doesn't mean that we can't do great things. It doesn't mean that we can't do special events like this that light that bulb for fans or that get people excited about a big fight. It doesn't mean we can't put on a spectacular fight that has the essence of matchmaking behind it. It just means that when you're talking about the cornerstone of how we build out our champions, it's still going to be based on that tournament. It's still going to be based on that objectivity, that real sports format. But it never means that we can't do special stuff like this. I mean, that's part of the magic of the relationship with Impact, with Dixie Carter. That's part of all of this stuff that we're putting together with our partners at Spike, is you add in these other elements. You make it bigger. And the cornerstone of making it bigger is to make the fighters bigger. I'm not Mother Teresa for doing that. That is just sports 101 on how you build up a brand and a league. You make the superstars bigger and you let them bring everything along. And that's what this is about. So, no, you're going to see more of this. You won't see it every day. We're not going to crown a champion this way, but you'll see more of this as we continue to grow and continue to evolve.
Do you have any idea how many title fights will be on the pay-per-view? How many are penciled in, to use Joe Girardi's phrase, at this point?
Yep, a whole lot more in a little bit, Eddie. We're going to have a lot of title fights on this show. I mean, it will be a long pay-per-view. Because we're going to have some big title fights in the show. Obviously, Curran's got a couple of defenses in the book right now. Chandler looked unbelievable. We got, there's a lot of meat on the bone in terms of title fights for us right now. Minikoff looked unbelievable at heavyweight. I think we've got a legitimate heavyweight contender now in the books, which was spectacular to see. So there'll be a lot of world title fights on that show. A lot of fives on that pay-per-view.
Okay, thank you, and good luck to everybody.
Thanks, Eddie.
We'll go next to Dave Meltzer at MMAfighting.com.
Hi, everybody. Bjorn, I have a couple of questions, and you kind of answered them because I was going to ask about the format of the pay-per-view. So now Rampage and Tito, that's going to be a 3-rounder, and then the title fights will be 5-rounders.
Yep,
correct?
that's right.
Okay, and I mean, do you have kind of an idea of like how many fights that you're looking at total on the show, and what type of the show is it going to be? Like a bunch of title fights, and then Tito matches the main event, or is it going to be a couple, 1 or 2 warm-up fights or tournament finals, and then a couple title fights, and then Tito and Rampage, or kind of what type of mix are you looking at?
Well, the good news is that because of the Spike partnership, and you and I have talked about this before, because of the Spike partnership, now we've got what I always dreamed about having, which is a backlog for our champions across multiple weight divisions or world title fights. So we can pick and choose what world title fights to put on that show. So you will see a collection of world title fights underneath Tito versus Rampage. You may see another special fight to kind of kick it off, probably looking at 5 fights on the pay-per-view. Kevin and I have got to go through the numbers and work through the dynamics, but you'll either see a 2-hour or a 1-hour pre-show on Spike to build up to the pay-per-view on November 2nd. So, there will be our best names, our best fighters, and like I said, a lot of world title fights on the show, which is great. We finally got that mechanism set in place where we can deliver to our champions repetitive defenses, and that's what I always dreamed about having, and the Spike partnership's given it to me. So it's exciting to be able to kind of pick and choose the best fights that you can put on that show.
Now, as far as like shoulder programming, are you going to do something with those 2 guys, or with some of your champions, as far as like whether it's a 1-hour preview show or whether it's a multiple week preview show that UFC type of thing is done, or something completely different that's going to be airing on Spike in the last, and maybe other platforms as well in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have some John Slusser and Kevin Kay and I have been working through the dynamics of shoulder programming that'll support this. The magic that we've got right here is that Tito's in Huntington Beach, Rampage is 5 minutes from our office. Production company can plant themselves here and track these guys every step of the way in terms of leading right up to this fight. They're both here, and some of the greatest MMA gyms in the whole country are right here. So you'll see a lot of back and forth. I don't want to characterize it as 24/7-esque, but that's kind of the genesis of it, is the lead up to this incredible fight, what these guys are doing in terms of preparation, etc. The behind the scenes look at them getting ready for this fight. And you'll also see our other fighters. You'll also see the co-main event and the third fight and the fourth fight in terms of what they're doing to get ready for these fights as well. So there'll be a lot of shoulder programming leading up to this to give people really an inside view of what's to come November 2nd.
And from the pro wrestling standpoint, Rampage appears pretty much weekly. And how long can he do that as far as before the fight? Is he going to take some time off from there, or is he going to remain? And with Tito, how extensively, and is their storyline for this fight going to be part of the pro wrestling storyline, or is what they do in pro wrestling, whatever that turns out to be, going to be totally different from what you're doing with this fight?
No, that's part of the magic of what we're doing right here, and that's part of what makes this partnership so cool and so unlike anything I've ever been part of in terms of television, is that literally I sit down and Dixie and I get on the phone with Kevin, and we sit down and we strategize on how we want to do it. How can we make Tito and Rampage bigger? How can we create synergy between them? How can we try to introduce some of those TNA Impact fans to MMA who might not have made that jump yet? That's part of the magic of this. If we're going to keep building this sport and we're going to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, we've got to bring more fans into it. We can't be protective in terms of saying, well, this is our MMA demo and this is the only way we're going to do it. We've got to bring people into it who otherwise might not watch it. Everybody that I've ever brought to an MMA show live, or that I've sat down and said, hey, you got to watch this show with me on Spike, that watches it wants to watch another one. It is addictive in nature. So if you can bring people to it, vis-a-vis having an amazing partnership like I've got with Dixie, or what Kevin and Dixie and I are doing together, and the build out of the storyline between Rampage and Tito, that's magic in a bottle. That's what this sport needs. That's what we need as fans of the sport to be able to build it. So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of build out on TNA Impact. You're going to see, I think, you can see Tito this Thursday on Impact again with Rampage. All good, all positive, all promo, all bringing in more fans. Yeah,
now in October they've got their biggest show of the year, and that's in San Diego.
Right.
Is there going to be things with involving are they going to be able to touch, so to speak, before the fight on pro wrestling, or are they going to be involved in that show, or just involved in that show, just whether it's cutting promos or just in other ways, but not going against each other, or not being linked with each other, or is that kind of early to say?
Well, let me tell you, brother, all you do is take your prayers and take your vitamins.
Look, you got to stay tuned. You got to stay tuned. You got to tune in on Thursday nights and watch these two guys on TNA Impact. But there's a well thought out build out in terms of how we're going to bring some of those fans over and welcome them to the greatest sport in the world in MMA. And like I said, the three of us are just lucky to have partners like Dixie and like Kevin who have put this whole mechanism together, and like a family like we've got at Spike. So you'll see that build out, and it may in fact lead right up to that huge October event down in San Diego with TNA Impact.
And for Tito, I know you've had the neck issues and the back issues, and when you retired the first time, I know that you were talking about maybe needing more surgery. And have you had surgery in the last year, or have you just, by not fighting and not training at that level, been able to heal up pretty well? I mean, what's kind of like, the condition of everything right now?
Well, actually, my last surgery was 12 weeks ago. I had an ACL replacement.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I bounced back after a month and a half. I mean, a month and a half, I was back to drilling again. I know my body recovered super, super fast. Of course, at the end of last year, I ended up having neck surgery for the last one. But just my body recovered. I'm still young. I mean, I got good blood in me. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't know if it's the Latino blood, or I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
What was the surgery you just had 12 weeks ago or so?
ACL replacement.
So you just had another knee surgery?
Yeah, on my right knee. And it healed quick. I went the Gadaver way. Dr. Ronald Kavitny out of Curlin Job in Los Angeles, who did my first knee surgery that I fought 6 months later, did this one, and I recovered faster than I did my last one. So I don't know, maybe I heal faster or something because I have a better environment around me and a positive environment around me, or maybe just God keeps throwing down blessings to me. But either way it is, I just feel good.
Is this the same knee you had the ACL cadaver replacement surgery on a couple years ago, or is that the other knee?
That's the other knee. That was the one before I fought Forrest 9 weeks before, where I got the meniscus taken out, and
right.
I guess I tore the ACL during the fight itself, and about a week later I couldn't really walk that well, and they went in and did MRI, and they said the ACL was completely gone. So I had to wait until after my neck surgery to get my knee surgery, and I got it done, and now I am the $1 million man.
Okay. Well, congratulations, you guys, on making this deal. It's a very interesting one, for sure.
Thanks.
Moving on, we'll go next to Dan Rhino at InsideSTL.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Question for Tito. Tito, with the short-lived retirement that you've had, it's led some to believe that you weren't, in fact, ready to hang them up at all in the UFC. Do you feel like you were overly coerced into retiring by the UFC, or was it just the sour taste in your mouth after the Forrest Griffin decision, the need to go out on a win for your legacy? What was it that made you want to come back so quickly?
I don't know. I guess if you poke the pit bull so many times, he's going to bite back one time or another. And I got poked so many times that I bit back and I walked away, and I let my contract cleared and be completely done. And time to, pick up the cards and reshuffle, and let's do this again and do it the right way this time. Do it in a positive environment. Do it in a way us fighters should be treated. And I could only handle so much. I could only be torn down so much. And when you tear me down enough where I need to walk away and rebuild myself, it took me a year to do that. And now it's just time for a new career and a new life to, step forward. And I'm happy where I am right now. And like I say, it's nice to be respected. Nice to be treated the way that I should have been treated. I had 15 years of being with the same company. I never competed with anybody else. I mean, I was the first UFC fighter in the history to compete for free. No other fighters ever competed for free. So fans or whoever can say that I do this strictly for the money. No, I do it because I love to compete. And the 3 children I have, Jacob, Jesse, and Journey, that's what the money's for. It's for them. So they don't have to steal for food. They don't have to steal to put clothes on their back. I'm going to give them something that my father never gave me. And the only way for me to do that is to fight. And I understand the business comes about, of course. It's the hustle. I understand that also. But now having a positive environment around me, having positive people around me, having a boss who cares, and having a company like Viacom and Bellator who's going to support me and not look amongst just as a fighter, but look in the business of, you know, my clothing company, Punishment Athletics, my nutrition line, Punishment Nutrition, you know, the acting stuff, and support me and not talk smack on me and talk down on me and disrespect me and make fans believe something that's not true. I'm one of the best fighters in the history of mixed martial arts. Rampage is one of the best fighters in the history of mixed martial arts. Bellator has ever put this deal together. Now we're going to put on a show November 2nd. And like I say, my back ain't pressed against the wall, so I'm going to put on a good show because I have a good mindset. And that's my job. I've been an entertainer since day one, and I'm hungry. I'm going to fight like a lion and like a warrior that I am, with heart and dedication, that I think that every fan deserves to see as a great fight. And that's why I picked the fight against Rampage. He's one of the best fighters in my mind in the world, and I believe I'm one of the best fighters. You know, you look at my last losses over the last, you know, 7 fights. They were close. You know, split decisions, draws against former champions. It was just the way a company spins the ball is what people perceive. And with this company, they're not going to spin it any different way than the truth that it should be said. Straightforward. That's the way it is. And you know, like I said, you can't judge a book by its cover until you turn the pages and get into the chapters. And that's been my life since day one.
And Tito, I don't know if you've thought past the Rampage fight, if you've decided how many fights you want to do. Is this a one-off deal? And if you are going to be doing multiple fights, how is this going to affect your management career, specifically with Chris Cyborg?
It won't affect the management career at all. You know, I'm not the only one running Primetime 360. You know, George Paisley, one of my partners, and we've got a couple other people that work with us closely and diligently as we possibly can. Chris is continue to be champion and continue to be dominant by being the baddest woman on the planet Earth and the #1 pound per pound woman on this earth. And you know, we got a great team behind us, with the trainers, with the management, with the PR group. Everything we're going to do, we'll continue doing. And it's not going to play any downside at all, I don't think. I mean, I've been running Punishment Athletics since the beginning of 1999 while I was fighting. You know, you can't run a business on your own. You have other people that bring in the attributes of being the best you possibly can be, and that's what I'm going to continue doing. I'm a workhorse, man. And if people who work with me in the last company I worked with, I was a workhorse. I was always on time for every meeting. I was pushing the company as hard as I possibly could, pushing the brand of mixed martial arts as hard as I possibly could, and I continue doing exactly the same thing as I did there as I will do here. And that's my job. That's why they hired me, because I do the best things the best way I possibly can do them.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
What weight classes?
We'll go next to Matt Erickson at MMAJunkie.com.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bjorn, just real quick, can you kind of take me behind the scenes a little bit? And was there a situation where you were able to, you know, sign Tito and then the light bulb went off in your head that a pay-per-view was possible, or did you target him specifically with the pay-per-view fight against Rampage in mind?
Targeted him specifically with a Rampage pay-per-view in mind. Look, I just looked at it again. I just kind of took off the CEO hat and put on the fan hat. I was like, of the epic battles that I wanted to see that I never got a chance to see, what was #1 on my list? And Rampage Tito was #1 on my list of great fights that I'd never gotten a chance to see. Couldn't understand why it wasn't made until I started, you know, picking Rampage's brain and talking to Tito about it. But then I understood, and it was just, that was a fight I wanted to make. It was a fight, you know, I'd watch them inside the cage, I watched them out of the cage, and watch what they'd done, how they promoted, and how they marketed. It made a ton of sense. That was the genesis of doing the deal, was to put this fight together for this medium.
And then how soon after you signed Rampage did you start thinking about that, you know, specific scenario playing out?
Well, you know, look, I think the one thing that we do really well here, and the one thing that Kevin Kay and I do really well, is we create a dynamic of options, because nothing is ever what it seems to be in sports entertainment. So you try to create one dynamic that could be exciting and could give rise to a big event, and then you try to create a second, you try to create a third, and then if you're lucky enough to get one or two of them to become real, you try to figure out which is the best one to launch with, which is the best one to do a premiere into this new space with. And we had a lot of discussions in different arenas, in different areas, and this one just made far and away the most sense. And we were able to put it together. It was just a lot of work and a lot of confidentiality, a lot of work, but this one made far and away the most sense of anything that we were thinking about or considering.
Okay. And then are you guys kind of waiting to see how this first one works out before deciding on, whether you'll venture back into the pay-per-view market, perhaps next season, or is this something that you guys think already that you'll be able to do once per season or twice per season or something like that?
Well, we'll see. You know what? The one thing that I've always said about pay-per-view is that you can't force-feed pay-per-views down people's throats month in and month out. You can't do it as a repetitive vehicle. We're a free TV mechanism and a free TV business. Our partnership and our alliances with Spike, and when incredible opportunities come up for us, and I sit down with our partners and we have the opportunity to do Tito versus Rampage, or we have the opportunity to do another huge fight that as an MMA fan you look at and you go, whoa, that's great, I would love to watch that, we will probably jump back into the pay-per-view arena. But it's not going to be one of those things where every single month, do or die, we keep putting it out same time, same place, same channel, where we don't necessarily have, or someone else doesn't necessarily have the fighters to fuel it the way that a premium purchase should be fueled. So we'll get back into it when the timing's right and we've got the right fighters. Pay-per-views are about great fights between great fighters. Pay-per-view is not about just sending it out there into space and saying, hey, give me $45 or $50 of your hard-earned money. So we'll be back in it, but we'll be back in it when the time's right to be back in it.
Great. Appreciate it, Bjorn. Thanks so much.
Hey, Lori, we'll take one more question.
And that will be from Jason Floyd at the MMAReport.com.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. First off, Bjorn, will this be a light heavyweight fight or will it be a catchweight bout?
205, light heavyweight bout.
Also, you mentioned about Michael Chandler, and is there an opponent you have in mind with him? Is it Dave Jansen or is it somebody else?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I like Michael Chandler's chances against anybody on the face of the earth, but we'll see. Given what we were able to see against Rickles, given that explosive tornado that we saw for however many 40 seconds that lasted, that lightweight world title fight lasted, I can't wait to get Mike back in there. He sure isn't getting paid by the hour, and I'm excited to see him fight. We'll see who he may be fighting in I think relatively short order.
Also, for Tito, you mentioned earlier that Bellator made an offer that you could not refuse. Could you go into detail of why this offer was out there that you couldn't refuse it?
I'm sitting right here and I'm fighting against one of my best friends, so that's a pretty offer that you couldn't refuse. That's about as extensive I'll get into it. I don't have nothing to worry about anymore.
Right,
I'm happy. I'm very happy.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for the answers.
And that is all the time we have for our question and answer session. I'd like to turn the conference back over to our speakers for any additional or concluding remarks. Gentlemen?
That's it. Thanks, guys. Remember, November 2nd from the Long Beach Arena. Tickets are on sale now. Rampage versus Tito. Thank you guys all for being here, and talk to you soon.
Once again, that does conclude our conference for today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us.
All right, guys. Thank you for coming.
That was awesome. Sorry about that, Wade. Good job, man. Hey, man, you great. You great on those questions. I couldn't do it though. I'd be like, man, shut up.
Just got to spin them.
I see.
It's like a boat. I want to go this way. You ain't turning me this way.
When he kept acting like, what's that the fighter? The wrestler guy.
You know what?